So, James, thanks for spending some time with us today. Why don't we start off by your explaining about your firm, Creen Inc. What's the firm's work? What do you focus on? Or anything that differentiates you from competition? And what's your geographic area of focus? Are there any principles that you have that you base your work upon? All of that kind of stuff. Tell us about your company.
Sure. Well, we help American companies all across the country in that are doing product development. We help them by providing engineering services to support their product development activities, and we also have smart factory services to help in the manufacturing side. So we provide an integrated solution from idea to delivery that helps U.S. companies accelerate their innovation and accelerate their deliveries and solve some of their supply chain issues and some of the things that we've been seeing lately.
Is Smart Factory shorthand for lean, but it's probably broader than that. Tell us a little bit about what's Smart Factory.
So our focus is largely with companies that have complex manufacturing, and what I mean by that is either complex products or they have a high mix production environment. A lot of companies don't even realize how much mix they have and the impact it has on the manufacturing. And lean principles are foundational. There's some awfully good stuff in there, but when it comes to high mix production environments, you really have to do a lot more than just lean. And so we've developed some proprietary methods to support our clients in that.
Excellent, excellent. So your background is basically, as I understood it from my research, is engineering in the first half and maybe the second half, lean and maybe some of the things that to help you to develop the smart factory concept and so forth. Why don't you take us through your career and did I give you a reasonably good overview of the first and half and second half of your career?
Sure. Well, educationally, I have an undergraduate from Berkeley in mechanical and material science engineering, and then an aerospace engineering master's degree from USC and an MBA from UCLA's Anderson Graduate School of Management. And I spent the first half of my career at Hughes Space and Communications, designing and building satellites. And I got just an amazing experience there, working with phenomenal people, brilliant people in developing some of the most cutting edge systems at the time. I was part of a very small team that developed the first DirecTV satellite system, for instance, which was a lot of fun. I was program manager on the NASA Tracking and Data Relay satellite system, which provides video data back and forth to the International Space Station and the Hubble Space Telescope and systems like that. And then I moved into operations and I stood up the Lean Six Sigma group at Hughes and worked through a lot of different opportunities for operational improvement throughout the company. And Boeing bought Hughes around that time and had the opportunity to work with all of the different Boeing organizations, sites across the country, and working with the operations teams at the various different sites across Boeing. And so that was kind of the first half of my career, and then I decided to put out my shingle and I started doing some consulting, did engineering consulting, systems engineering, program management, and operations, and have built a company now to where we have over 600 subject matter experts on our team in various specialties in aerospace engineering and smart factory systems and manufacturing optimization. So it's an amazing team of people, and it's a constant learning experience being surrounded by them. So, which is really fun.
On that sort of on that subject, so you've been involved in engineering and lean manufacturing and in that whole area. What are the major changes that you've seen over the last 20, 30 years or so in applying the concepts or in the concepts themselves as they have developed?
Well, it's a great question, because it's a very important thing that American companies stay at the forefront of these operational opportunities, these improvement opportunities, and that's what we work with our clients to help them to do. Because I'll be honest, we walk a lot of factories that are stuck in 1980s lean, and there's a lot that's been done since that implementation. And some of the most important things I think relate to applying, as I said, applying principles beyond lean to high mix production environments. So
Hmm.
even though our background is aerospace, we found that, gee, this applies across all industries. And so we're helping art and frame companies, we're helping industrial building products companies, and you name it. I mean, basically every industry. And you need to understand that lean really is, coming out of the Toyota production system, and is focused on an environment where Toyota has, uh, you know, pretty much doing repeat manufacturing, right? They produce typically one car per production line, or Camry line produces Camrys. It doesn't produce Tundras or other
Hmm.
products, and and there are very few variations within that line, right? In addition to that, they have very tight relationships with their entire supply chain ecosystem. And so that's really very different than a lot of American manufacturers. And so it's important to recognize those differences. For us, what we do is we take an approach where we look at people, process, and technology. And and so that methodology is really key. And as systems, smart factory systems, begin to be able to implement systems like AI, technologies like AI, and that there are some pretty cool things you can do that go beyond standard lean. So it's an exciting time, and it's an opportunity to bring manufacturing back to the United States like never before. So that's what we're focused on. We're excited by that.
So is reshoring? We're getting a lot of news articles that suggest that it is happening. What's your observation on that?
Yeah, it's a busy part of our business. There's definitely, we're helping companies to design new manufacturing facilities here in the United States that previously did all of their manufacturing in Asia.
Hmm.
Um, and talking to numerous companies that are trying to figure out how to reshore their supply chain in various different ways. It's very real. The situation with the Ukraine and has definitely brought it even more to the
Hmm.
forefront. But it's a big issue for semiconductors. And the pandemic has really brought so much to the table.
Yeah.
Um, we were doing all of this well before the pandemic,
Hmm.
but it made it really obvious to people um, that those extended supply chains and um, always focusing on globalization might not be the most important strategic approach to ensuring your manufacturing and your supply chain is able to support your customers. And there's an evolution, with customers too, uh, that companies need to react to. So,
Yeah. Yeah. So switching subjects a little bit, let's focus on you for a second. Just as you gave us an overview of your career, we have an understanding of what you're doing now. Um, but what's the individual James Green like? What do you do in your off time, if there is much spare time? How do you utilize that? What are your interests?
well, let's see. First and foremost, I just love spending time with my family.
Yeah.
My kids are getting older. I have three kids, and one is at University of Texas, and the other is at Texas A&M University, and then I have another in high school, and so it's all about them when we can all get together. Yesterday was my birthday, so that was a lot of fun. We were all together and got a chance to hang out and that. So that's always number one for me.
Yeah.
Other than that, my wife and I love to ski, and of course, being in the middle of Texas takes a little bit of effort to get out to
Yeah.
find a
Yeah.
place to ski. But we love heading up to Taos, New Mexico, and other places to relax and spend a little bit of time disconnected from all the electronics and email and whatnot, and just spend some time out with fresh pine tree filtered air. That to me is my happy spot when I get
Yeah. Yeah.
to smell pine trees. That is that's my happy place for sure. So yeah.
Yeah. Towels will do that. That's a wonderful place.
It is.
Let's talk about the impact that COVID has had on your business. You referred to it in terms of the pandemic and how that has impacted on companies' thinking and so forth. But in addition to the heightened awareness of supply chain issues related to the pandemic that's come about, what are some of the other impacts on your business, either in terms of customers that you've had a changing situation with because of the impact that COVID has had on them, or how has it impacted your business generally?
Well, initially, it's been interesting. So our workforce is pretty distributed around the United States, so we're kind of used to working remote, and so for particularly the engineering services part of our business, we were able to continue to grow through the pandemic pretty readily. The aerospace industry was not hit terribly hard, and that's where most of our engineering work is done.
Right.
And so that worked out okay. We were able to weather that part. Interestingly, the folks that were focused more on manufacturing sort of had conflicting challenges, right? On the one side, um, companies did not want outsiders coming into their facilities, and it's very hard to, we do a lot of facility optimization, so
Right.
capacity optimization. How do you get the most out of your current resources and that type of work? And initially that was pretty rough because
Hmm.
we couldn't get out there and see what was going on. Um, and But over time, that's sort of morphed into, gee, my supply chain's pretty messed up. Is there something that I can do to help fix that? And also how to become more flexible, right? How to
Hmm.
deal with these kinds of changes that happen, because who knows what comes next, right? You have to be in a position to be able to adjust and flex.
Yeah.
And so our business has definitely improved from that perspective. Companies looking to um, you know create more resilience in their supply chain. Um, some of the things that we focus on is, like, we bring cycle times down significantly typically.
Sure.
Um, and I used to give me, early on, when we started doing this, I worked with a company that had a 6 month cycle time from when their product was kitted to the floor to when it was shipped. It was a very complex product, and it took a long time to get it built out, tested, and delivered. And when we kind of went in and did our thing, that 6 month cycle time ended up being 15 days, right? So three weeks.
Mm.
And when you do that, it creates a massive amount of flexibility. Yeah, they had all kinds of supply chain issues before that, late suppliers, and
Hmm.
know, suppliers having, challenges in their production. Well, when even a supplier could be, even 4 months late, 5 months late in that environment, and they would still be able to deliver on time. So they went from a company that was sort of known in the industry as always being, late, to always being on time. And of course, when you do things faster like that, you can't help but do it cheaper. Um,
Sure.
it's one of the byproducts. We always talk about it's all about speed, right? Because if you can produce something quickly, typically you're going to spend a lot less money on it. Cost becomes more of a dependent variable rather than a driver. And so they just started making money hand over fist. And their customers were super happy with them. And we've done that time and time again with multiple, customers going in and cutting cycle times in half with same resources, nothing new, but bringing, some of these advanced, sort of beyond lean methodologies to the table in people, process, and technology. I mean, most of this is without a technology implementation. That's the thing that's really phenomenal about this. So we're a very low tech technology implementation. And then we start looking at, okay, now let's take you to the next level.
Mm-hmm.
We have 7 levels of excellence that we focus on. And we kind of start with a survey that helps that the client does and we do independently, and then we compare notes, say, okay, where are we in various different areas, and then we identify, okay, what are the things that we need to do. So what level are you at? Sort of is dependent upon what the lowest level of, we have 7 different areas that we focus on, and in those 7 areas, are you a level 2 company or a level 4 company? And if you're a level 4 in 6 out of the 7, but you're a level 2 in one of them, well, let's focus on that and let's get that up to level 4, and then let's move the whole company up to a level 5. So we have some pretty good tools that help companies to really see much more clearly where do we need to focus our attention, and then get faster. That's get faster and faster. Accelerate those processes and help people to be able to be more and more successful within the organization.
We talked, or you reflected a little bit upon uncertainty when you were talking about what's the next pandemic or the next supply chain issue or whatever. It seems like uncertainty is more uncertain than it ever has been. It seems like it's accelerating. Is this something that we're going through that's a phase, or is it the new normal?
It is definitely not a phase. I referred earlier to some of the customer driven changes that are going on in the marketplace.
Right.
And those are creating that uncertainty and that dynamic as well. Okay, so manufacturers are sort of being hit by both ends, right? On the one hand, you have the supply chain and all of the challenges from the supply chain perspective. On the other hand, you have these customer market changes. And what do I mean by that? Today sort of the standard is I can go to Amazon, I can order whatever I want, and if I'm a Prime member in particular, within a day or two, I can get whatever I ordered.
Yeah.
With one caveat: the thing had to have already been made, and it's sitting in a warehouse or a distribution center somewhere ready to be shipped. Well, that dynamic is changing. And customers are starting to become more and more demanding to say, well, I actually want to be able to customize my product before I ship it, before it gets shipped to me. I was on the radio with I was on the radio talking to a host, and he said, my wife and I ordered a set of patio furniture, right? And she, of course, wanted particular material for that the pattern or whatever for that furniture. And so they custom, selected the material. Well, what they didn't know was it was being manufactured in China. And so that order was being filled there, and they ordered it in April. They received it in, I think, January or February. They couldn't believe how long it took them, right? So the future is not customize something and wait for a slow boat from China for it to be delivered, right? The future is I order it, I customize it, I order it, and it gets delivered to me in a day or two. Now that's an entirely different problem for manufacturers and retailers to be able to solve. And that's where rapid manufacturing, rapid customization, high levels of flexibility, high mixed production environments. That is the order of the day. If you have that and your competitor doesn't, I feel sorry for your competitor. Because they're going to have a really hard time competing with you, because not only do I get it when I want it, but typically I'm like, hey, you know what? I'll pay a little bit extra of getting exactly what I want. In that, few day time frame. That's outstanding, right? So you get higher margins because you have a system that's set up that frankly doesn't care how you customize it, right? We have a building products company that we worked with that, they cut their cycle time from 22 days down to 9 days. And their customer demanded cycle time is 10 days, right? So they were delivering slower than their customer wanted. Now they're delivering as fast as their customer wants, but pretty much their product is almost 100%. For all intents and purposes, it's 100% custom, because they have 12,000 different SKUs that you can order and get delivered on demand. Wow. And that's only 60% of their business. 40% of it is purely custom. Just, this is specifically what I need. So that mass customization, that's the future, and that's so these sort of dynamics of, oh boy, I really have to be flexible. I have to be able to deal with whatever comes my way. That's being driven by the market, and it's going to be more and more and more over the next decade.
It's crazy times, wonderful and crazy times, huh?
Yeah, it is. Yeah, see, the thing is what's really fun about that from a U.S. manufacturing perspective is that's the sort of the killer app, right?
Yes.
And, software guys talk about the killer app, right?
Yeah.
Well, the killer app is being able to customize and deliver in a day or two. Well, if I'm an American manufacturer that can do that, there's no Chinese manufacturer that can compete with me, because they can't get it to the customer that fast, even if they could customize it that fast. Which typically they're not up to do either. So that's what really is going to drive manufacturing back to the United States.
Exciting. If you were talking, you were over the weekend to your kids, but very often our kids don't ask us for advice. So let's assume you're going on a college campus and you're going to finish your speech, and then somebody says, "Well, what advice would you give to us? What are the key things that you've learned in your career?" What are some of the things that a 20-year-old coming out of college should have as fundamental understandings of what the world is like today and what it takes to compete?
It's a great question. Well, I think one of the things that I always did, that I found to be successful in my career, was I always tried to get on projects where I was surrounded by people that were smarter than me. Luckily, that hasn't been very difficult. But I would get on, when I was at Hughes, right? You're constantly switching from one program. You finish up a satellite program, and then you got to go basically find yourself a new job within the company on a new program. I always sought out the programs that everybody said, "Oh boy, that one's going to be really hard. That one's going to be tough. Or the ones that were already in trouble, right? Sometimes they started right out of the gate out in trouble, who knows? And those are the ones I sought out because those challenges are the areas where you learn the most, and you get an opportunity. You can never stop learning, right? And any college graduate who thinks, oh great, I'm done with my education. Sorry, but the reality is you've only just begun. All you've done now is learn how to learn, and now you have to start focusing on where are those opportunities to learn the most. And I, from my knothole, being in the aerospace industry as well as in just general manufacturing, there's a really interesting dynamic that's happening right now. Elon Musk the other day announced that their Starship rocket was going to cost between $2 and $10 million to deliver 100 metric tons to orbit. That's game changing. Like that's gold rush type thinking type stuff, right? And so from that perspective, it's the difference between having to take a wagon train across the country to being able to just hop on a plane and go wherever you want. And do it cheaper, right? I mean, I'm sure it costs, in real dollars, it probably costs a lot more to get a wagon train from New York to San Francisco than it costs to get an airplane today. And so that's in that industry, in the aerospace industry, as launch costs plummet basically because of what Elon Musk is doing. It opens up this huge industry of entrepreneurs, basically. What can I do in space? And let's go figure it out. So that's a super exciting area. And like I've talked about, manufacturing in the United States, I don't think there's any way it can't be back. It has to come back because the customer is demanding customization, and the only way you get customized product in a reasonable time is to do it locally. And so I think there's just this huge, really great opportunity in manufacturing, and of course within both of those areas. Artificial intelligence is on the rise and is going to continue to make a big difference in a lot of areas. And the one thing I do disagree with Musk on is that I don't anticipate artificial intelligence replacing people in the workforce. Every time anybody has predicted that, I remember people predicting that because of the internet and how efficient it was making everything. And really what it does is it enables you to do things that you couldn't do before. You didn't have online retail back when the internet first came out. Now you do. Now that whole ecosystem has been enabled. And so AI is just enabling us to do things that we never really could have imagined before. And on the factory floor, it's an opportunity to optimize in ways that we never could have conceived of before. And that's really, going back to one of your original questions about lean and the differences there. Lean talks about 7 wastes, and now there's an 8th waste, and that's the lack of implementation of proper technology to optimize your operations. If you don't do that, you're missing a big opportunity. So yeah, I don't know. That's a lot, I guess, for a 22-year-old to take in, but that's my advice in a nutshell from a career perspective.
The last question is, all of us who work on other people's businesses for a living need at some point in time to stop and work on our own business. Is it a stop and work on your own business, or is it an always work on your own business? How do you make the improvements to your basic fundamental delivery of services to others. Do you do that incrementally? Do you do it formally? Do you do it a combination of both? How do you work on your business?
Yeah, that's a great question. So we we work on our business in the same way that we help other businesses to
Hmm.
grow. And for us, what we think about is how do you is scale, right? Um, and so if you want to scale your business, if you want to grow your business, right? Ultimately, what drives your ability to scale the business is what is your sphere of influence? What are you able to control from a business perspective, whether that's suppliers, internal operations, or customers? Where are you able to, you know, uh, uh, ensure that you're delivering the value that you need to deliver, right?
Hmm.
And and so we think in terms of visibility, insight, and control. So in order to increase your scale, you need to increase your ability to control more than what you were able to control before, right?
Okay.
If you think about somebody that's working in the garage, right, on
Hmm.
some thing that they just invented and they're making it and shipping it and whatever else, they have complete control over their operations. What they can't do is they can't necessarily grow and scale that operation without a lot more help. And so, how do you go about doing that growth? And so, visibility, insight, and control is kind of where we've come out in how to think about that. You can't scale without increased control. You can't control without better insight,
Hmm.
meaning analytics and that help you to see where are things working, where are they not, how are things changing, and how do I react to those changes, all of those types of things. There's insight piece, and you can't get any insight if you don't have any visibility, right?
Hmm.
So foundational is starting with visibility. How do you know what's going on throughout your organization, and how do you get that visibility? And so start with visibility, then you use the information that you get from that visibility to improve your insight into what you can do and what you should do. And then from there, you use that insight to improve the mechanisms that you have for controlling your business and your operation. So for us, we use that same methodology. And in fact, last week we had um, almost the whole team here at headquarters, because we're sort of spread around the country, um, and we sat down and went through that exercise and of kind of looking at where are we with our visibility, insight, and control. Where do we want to go to next and take those steps? Again, going back to what I was talking about before, from a people perspective, from a process perspective, from a technology perspective. So for us, the way we sort of attack things similarly to the way we do with our clients. We do take some time, put the right people in a room, talk about the key things that are necessary in order to get to the next level. We do some detailed process analysis,
Hmm.
and then we look at what solutions are needed from a people, process, and technology perspective, um, and then that is something that we kind of continue to work on. We have what we call weekly acceleration meetings, where that activity is managed. Not that all of our acceleration work happens during that meeting, but we manage that activity in that meeting. So what are we doing to accelerate our own business, to scale our own business, and and so we try and do something similar with our
Hmm.
clients. Every company is different, so we always have to customize our solution, just like
Hmm.
just like I'm talking about, right? We don't get to go in with a cookie cutter solution and say, here,
Right.
this is what we do, and we're going to do this, this, and this. And one of the things that our one of our senior guys always does is you can't improve what you don't understand. And so
Mm.
we always start with understanding. We spend a lot of time with our client on the understanding piece, and then we move on to, all right, how do we take the company to the next level? So I think companies have to do a combination of both. I think they have to take some time, set aside, really understand what's happening, get everybody in a room, and then you can sort of get everybody on the same page. Hey, this is what we're going to do next time, over the next quarter, say, and then you go and take those actions and get it done.
Well, speaking of understanding, thank you very much today for the understanding that you've given us about your firm and yourself and the changes that are occurring, how you're dealing with those. It's been very insightful. We could go on and on for quite a while, I think, but now's a great time to end. And I really appreciate your spending some time and sharing that with us, James.
It's a pleasure, Marty, and thank you so much for your time and having me on the show here. Appreciate it very
Excellent.
much.
Thanks again.
Thank you. You have a great day.